This is WFO Radio.
We are back. Happy new week, everybody. Hopefully you had a great Memorial Day weekend and did all the things that you wanted to do, of course, while keeping in mind the whole point of Memorial Day. What was great about Memorial Day, we had a little NHRA drag racing down there at the Texas Motorplex. Drag racing, in fact, happening in various places around the country, and we're going to get into it. We're going to have Sean Bellemeur, who was the funny car winner out there at the Lone Star Nationals. Of course, Alan Reinhart going to be joining us just seconds from now from Tucson, Arizona, and we'll discuss the issues of the day, the news of the week, all of those things. My name is Joe Costello. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WFO Joe. And I am really looking forward to just getting another week going once again with WFO. If you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe, click the bell, get notifications, follow everything, log on to everything, sign on to everything, etc. Because this show is brought to you by a couple of great sponsors that make it possible for me to do this and to follow the drag racing dreams. I'm talking about folks like samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. You think about all the crew chiefs and teams out there. A lot of them come through Samtech, and the folks down there in Houston, Texas, doing a great job. The Massengill family, of course. I can't wait to see some samtech.edu factory stock showdown. But the bottom line is we have to replenish the racers out there with new minds and thinkers and capable people, and Samtech is helping to accomplish that. Also, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure, something that they travel around the country. Hopefully we'll be starting that again. In the meantime, being in Florida, they are able to do some things. Cameron Caruso actually went through the school last week. So if you've ever had dreams of going to Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, by all means, now is the time. FrankHawley.com. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. Got some new podcasts up there with Lake Speed Jr. But also, this is like the final days of the 20% off. You should follow all their social media to find out exactly what they're doing. But 20% off tools and rings and some of their best stuff for you DIY racers out there. Just tremendous what they are doing at Total Seal Piston Rings. And Marvin Rodak. Rodak's Coffee and Grills.com. Hot sauces and spice rubs. Everything good actually was out there this past weekend at the Texas Motorplex. We're going to talk about it. Initially, it was going to be no fans, and then Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, says, no, let him in. And race fans got to get out there and watch a little drag racing, high-level drag racing at the Texas Motorplex. And Marvin Rodak was out there. Hot sauces, spice rubs. If you really want to keep small businesses, drag racing-themed businesses going and together, and also enjoy some of the best coffee out there in the world, literally, coffee from around the world, Marvin Rodak is your guy, 817-924-6821. Also, quick reminder, folks at nitrofishracing.com offering 20% off from their website. Go to nitrofishracing.com, use the promo code WFO20 and get 20% off. I'm talking about the WFO radio t-shirt, which everybody loves, the Erica Enders 3-time champion t-shirt, the Jason Line, final line, what is it? End of the line. He put that in my head, end of the line tour, and that's not what it is. And on that note, let's bring in the voice of the NHRA from Tucson, Arizona. I know he's excited to be talking about actual drag racing results, Mr. Alan Reinhart. AR, hey, how are you?
I am well. Hey, by the way, just to save everybody the trouble, if you go on the Nitro Fish website and try WFO 75, that doesn't work. I tried.
No. WFO 100, WFO.
Yeah, I figured, I'll get 4 for 1. I'll get WFO 75 and almost order a truckload. And basically it went, don't be a moron. So anyway, just so you know.
I'm glad you're the guy that tests the theory, and this guy, that guy. But Randy, Lynn, and Bo just doing such a nice thing. I talked to them, obviously. They created our WFO radio t-shirts right over Alan's face right there. And we actually have the new WFO masks are in the house. Look at that. This was a Randy.
Yeah, way better.
It's actually very silky, Al. And she said, hey, we're going to give you a promo code too, 20% off for your listeners. And I just thought that was amazing. So you can get all the latest t-shirts there, nitrofishracing.com. And so.
Speaking of Bo and Randy Lynn, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but Warren Evans has started a series where he sits down and chit-chats with various people in the industry. It's called Love This Life, and they talk a little bit about who they are and how they got there and what they do, and the fact that they're enjoying what they're doing. The latest is Bo Butner, and if I'm not mistaken, that drops tonight maybe or tomorrow. The extra day off always throws off my whole week. It's kind of like, if you go to the races and come home on Sunday instead of Monday, it just ruins you for 10 days or so. But keep an eye out on that. I think that's going to be a really interesting story. For those who don't know Bo's story, it is a very interesting story.
Absolutely, and I totally agree. And Warren is a great guy in that he's offered to help me with WFO many times, and just going around to the races when you watch like the D3 TV initially, and now has expanded into the other divisions, divisional racing on the web for free in many cases. That's him, labor of love, driving across the country, crazy man. Because he is driving it. He's got a trailer he pulls behind. He sets up all the equipment, does a great job, and is very reliable and stable. So, Alan, here we are. We've already got people checking in. Derek, he's one of our Patreons, going to get a WFO mask. Our Patreons are getting them first. Bobby Graham out there, talking about the article in Drag Illustrated about the World Door Slammer Nationals. No longer the last drag race. We have gotten a drag race in the Lone Star Nationals, and we're going to hear from our funny car winner, Sean Bellemeur, the reigning Lucas Oil World Champion. Just seconds from now, Alan, Sean is going to join us. Fans of Sean share the show, but it was really nice to have actual racing once again.
Yeah, it definitely was. And Sean didn't just win. He went out there and crushed them. He and Megan both basically did exactly the same thing. Went out there, qualified number one, and just kind of ran roughshod through the field. Ended up being a spectacular final round from a numbers standpoint. But, he certainly showed everybody why he's got the number one on the side of his car, and I think he intends to try to keep that. But no, it was great. I can't say that I planted myself and watched the whole thing, but I definitely tuned in a few times throughout the course of the day and was paying attention to what was going on out there, especially with the alcohol classes. And it was great to see him back on the racetrack. And also, as you mentioned at the top of the show, it was great that Governor Abbott told the track that, hey, you can open up for limited fan access, and at least you got to stick your toe in the water. So I applaud them for doing that and giving the fans an opportunity to come out on, I believe it was Saturday, right? Not Sunday, Saturday. I don't remember. Again, I all messed up because of the holiday. Just what you need, right? You haven't been to work for 3 months, so let's take an extra day off. But no, it was great to see cars back on the racetrack, and obviously they were doing some social distancing on the starting line. And if you saw the winner's circle pictures, they were all like here, and here. And trying to be as safe as possible as you can be in that environment. But it was great. It was great to see cars back on the racetrack at that level. There have been a number of tracks that have opened up at a small level around the country. And, at some point, you got to start trying it. You got to start testing water to get back to work.
I agree. And it's been very interesting watching like the protocols and whatnot. We produce a poker podcast out of these studios once a week called Poker Action Line. And they're talking to the poker rooms are opening up and everyone is being creative. And I'm thinking about us. We're an outdoor sport. Thinking about that 25% capacity of the Texas Motorplex, which probably holds, 30,000 people. And however many want to come in and watch Sean Bellemeur go to the winner's circle. I think we've got to go out there and just do our best and try our best. And it worked out. We had Megan Meyer on Friday on our happy hour show. She told us that she needed a win to make the Jegs All-Stars to get back in the points. Dean Dubbin was the runner-up in Top Alcohol Funny Car. We have got the winner going to join us right now, Alan. He is from California, repping the Master Cam hat, and he's ready to rock and roll. He won. Sean Bellemeur, the champ, with us here on WFO. What's up, Sean? How are you?
Good, guys. How you doing? Joe, I saw your mask, so I had to actually run out, grab mine. Tony Bartone actually made custom masks for us, as you would, probably not surprising at all.
Right.
Yeah. Alan, where's yours?
He's going to get one. Alan, will you wear one of these? See, the coveted.
Sure.
Go ahead, Alan.
I've known Tony Bartone a long time, and I'm thinking that's probably not the first time he put something over somebody's mouth. Just saying. Just throwing it out there.
Alan, this is perfect for the chloroform you're always talking about. But the coveted over-the-face sponsor logo that marketers have been discussing for years and years. Can't we just put our logo right over the driver's face? And people are like, no, you can't do that. Suddenly, it's acceptable. It's the thing to do. We got, boom, just like that. And Sean, you're the first winner of the new era. Had to feel great to get out there and just, first of all, run well, but to run at all.
It was a special feeling. There was just a feel over the whole place unique feeling, and it was it just seemed like everybody didn't they didn't have a heartache over the petty things like sometimes we get caught up doing. It was a great it was a lot of air high fiving, a lot of smiles, a lot of storytelling. It was a great feel. It felt like the old days, and hats off. I heard you guys talking about it before I came on. Hats off to the Texas Motorplex and Andy there, and everybody that stuck their neck out to make this thing happen. Will Hanna had a lot to do with this too, and get us combined with the Midwest Pro Mod Association. What a great group they are. It just between the alcohol dragsters, alcohol funny cars, I feel like they put on a pretty darn good show too. So for everybody that tuned in, damn it feels good to be back.
Certainly.
You feel a little bit of rust getting in the car after being gone for so long to take a couple of runs to kind of get back in the rhythm of things?
Oh, I drove terrible. There was fortunately, thank God, there was a test and tune on Thursday. I actually talked with Doug Gordon about that. We matched up in a test and tune session on Thursday afternoon, and I said, God, I feel like we're relicensing right now. So, Alan, you brought up a good point. Hitting your shift points in an alcohol funny car is critical. And after being out of the car for a little bit, you're behind the car a little bit. So it took a run or two to knock all that rust off. Not only for the drivers, the teams, getting your starting line routine back down, your pit routine, everything. It definitely took a day or so for sure.
The idea that you're jumping in these cars in a unique situation, and the amount of attention that is on you extends to the governor of Texas, where, calls are going out. Can we bring fans in? They want to make it as fan friendly as possible, as normal as possible. But at the same time, you mentioned air high fives and whatnot. How, once you got to racing, once you're in the groove, how much was the added layer of that on your mind? Like, hey, let's try to stay apart as best as we can, interact with fans, but social distance as best as we can, knowing that if you do a good job, like if you set the bar in a proper way and people walk out of this event feeling good about it, it's going to be good for drag racing everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. And, we knew kind of collectively as a Top Alcohol group, we all got together and said, let's not only just play by the rules, but let's overemphasize this. We know that internationally, everybody's watching. I mean, we were the first ones from an NHRA standpoint to get back out there and give it a shot. And actually, I signed a handout for a kid, and literally I saw there was a sheriff riding in his truck driving past the pit when I was doing it. And I literally had the kid set the handout on the table. I came over, signed it, shouted to him, asked him his name. He told me. I set it back on the table. He came over and got it. And I watched that sheriff sit there, watch the whole thing, and he just kind of smiled and waved. Is it the norm? I hope it's not going to be the norm forever. Obviously, interaction with the fans and teammates and fellow racers is what we do. It's why we go. But you know what? For now, it's okay because we were out there doing what we love. And if this is what we got to do for a little bit, so be it. I'll get back on an airplane and go to the next one.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
When is the next one? Do you know that yet?
Well, so tentatively isn't everything. For Tony Bartone Racing, we are looking at going into Epping, New Hampshire. I think it's third weekend of June, 17th, 18th, something like that. That's one we're looking at going to. I know there's a lot of talk about a division race in Denver that a lot of teams are going to go to, I think around maybe even the same weekend. So we got a couple weeks off here. I'm really excited to hear from NHRA and the feedback we get from everybody's actions and workings from Dallas, because everything I've heard so far has been really, really good.
Tremendous. All right, let's talk a little bit about that final round. Alan, before we came on, he says you were beating up on a girl. I don't know. Annie Whiteley looks like the kind of lady that can take you down at any second. And judging by the ETs in the final round, that was a classic race that you'll be thinking about for a long time.
Yeah, well, for one, I live with 4 girls. I know better than to screw with girls. Okay, they don't fight fair. They're mean. I know better. But we had the field beat for much of that weekend, and I'll tell you what, guys, it was some of the toughest conditions we've ever raced in. The water grains were higher than I've ever seen them, and I'm lucky to have a guy like Steve Boggs in my corner, because Steve just swung for the fence harder than anybody else earlier in the weekend, and that's why our numbers were better. Well, as the weekend progressed, they were catching on. And in fact, Annie had lane choice going into the final. We actually missed the setup a little bit. And so, we knew going into the final. I mean, Steve told me, and in an interview, he even said, he goes, I turned every knob I got. I even turned some knobs you don't even know I got. We literally threw every last thing we had at that. It was kind of the perfect storm. The air was terrible, but the track was really, really good. And, you always want the track to be killer. Well, it almost was a disadvantage in this case. So, you knew the Strasburgs, Annie's crew chiefs, you knew they'd come swinging. And so it was, when it got down through there and they told me on the radio that we both went 549, I got to be honest, it didn't really surprise me that Whiteley'd step up and do that well. I mean, they've had a single digit on the side of their car for years. That's for a reason. So it was a great drag race. It was, I hope, a good show for the fans, people tuning in. I had a lot of feedback, a lot of reaching out on social media and things like that. So it was a hell of a lot of fun. And, like I said before, mark this one on your calendar for next year. This track, these people went above and beyond. It was just a great time.
Yeah, 49-4 beats 49-6. Tremendous final round. We do have some questions from listeners out there. This one has yet to allow us to see his profile, his or her profile, but a good question regardless. Your reaction times are insane. That's something you're known for, and why one of the reasons you've won championships. If you need the team to bail you out, they do. When they need you to bail them out, you do. It's just such a tough combination to beat right now. That's why you got the number one. But can you talk about how you keep them so stellar? Asks our Facebook user out there.
It's funny. I get asked that question quite a lot, and I really think that people don't believe me when I truly say this. When you've got a 4,000 horsepower engine revved up to 7,000 RPM, it's pissed off, man, and all it wants to do is go. And so, you know what? Get that clutch pedal out and get that car moving. It's actually kind of intimidating in there, and I'm not lying. I think a lot of the drivers will tell you that. But my dad used to race, and I think I was kind of blessed with the gene, because everybody who raced against my dad always said he had killer reaction times. So a combination of that. The other part of it is I want to hold up my end of the deal for my team. There is no more aggressive tuner out there than Steve Boggs. There are no better people that work on a team than my guys. And I'd have a hard time sleeping at night if I went up there and wasn't able to hold up my end of the deal, because I know the car's going to be 110%. I know the tune-up's going to be 110. So I try to put my piece into it as well. And combination of all of that, I think, we just makes a pretty good mixture.
Alan, question for Sean.
I just think that he doesn't want to have to go back to. I have known Tony Bartone for close to 30 years, and if Tony comes up to you with a time slip and goes, "You want to explain this?" I think that's what you're.
If I got time to tell a quick story, it's funny you say that, Alan. So, in 2018 was my first season full time for these guys, and I got hired, for partly due to my reaction times. Well, the first race, Pomona, California, the Winter Nationals, I get beat on a hole shot by Doug Gordon. Okay, now Doug, one of the best drivers in the class, I put him top 2, 3, and he whipped me. I mean, my life wasn't bad, but Doug's was better. And we get down the other end, and Tony's not in the tow vehicle. Now, Tony's always in the tow vehicle. So I'm thinking, first race, and I'm fired already. So we get back to the pit, and Tony's standing in the doorway of his toter home. And he says, "Hey, kid, come here. Come inside, sit down, and close the door." And I thought, well, if it's good news, I'm fired. If it's bad news, I'm dead. So he goes, "What was your light?" Now, he knew exactly what my light was. But he goes, "What was your light?" And I'm paraphrasing, Alan. You know what I'm talking about. And he goes,
I know.
He goes, so I tell him, I said I had a 064, something like that. He looked at me, he goes, I used to drive. No kidding. I've raced him like 10 times, but okay, go on. He goes, look at me. He goes, when I was driving, I'd do anything for a 64 light. Go get him next time, kid. We'll be just fine. Whew.
Tony was a little more graphic than that, but
Yeah, well, that's for the viewing audience, that's basically how it went down. And we went on to win like the next 3 out of 5 races after that. Tony's as good as an owner as it gets. No complaints from me.
Well, you mentioned that. I can't help but I think like that's leadership, right? Like the carrot, the stick, the good cop, the bad cop, that whole like positive, negative energy, when to use it. And, you were intimidated and he gave you the soft hand right there. He gave you the support. And look what has happened since.
And there's a reason that Steve Boggers and him have been together so long. There's a reason. Keep in mind, Tony is a multi-time world champion in multiple different cars, so he knows what it takes. He's got the formula. So he loves to break your back as he calls it. But he's a great guy. He's a great car owner. He's great with my kids. Again, no complaints from me. I'm in a happy place with him.
Joe, you mentioned the carrot and the stick. I think it's interesting being out there all the years, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there are plenty of, whether it's owners or tuners out there, that really believe in the stick. They walk around with a club. It's like, you were late. What are you trying to do? Give it away? What are you trying to do? And there have been drivers out there that go through their whole career believing they never did anything right. If you were 10 on the tree, you're trying to red light. If you were 70 on the tree, you're trying to give it away. If you pedaled it, you shouldn't have. If you short shifted, you shouldn't have. No matter what happens, they just kind of get beat into submission to doing whatever, whether it's the driver or the tuner wants. And then there are also teams out there where it's like all for one and one for all. There's guys that, you lose a race on a hole shot, you feel like you let everybody down, you want to slit your wrists. Some of the teams out there, guys will be lined up with razor blades going, here, take mine, take mine, take mine. But there are other teams out there that when the driver feels down, they literally are like, dude, last week you saved us. We're good. Don't worry. We'll get them next week. It kind of keeps the mood light. And I've always been a believer that, that the carrot is better. I'd rather have somebody that's got my back when I make a mistake, because I'll cover for them when they do, than to go back at the end of the day and have everybody point fingers. Well, you lost on a hole shot. It's like, yeah, well, if you had qualified us in the 8th place, we'd have, and you can go through that all day long. It's better to have everybody pulling the same way. And again, I've known Tony a long time, and I love the guy, and he will bust your chops until the end of time. But if you need him, there's nobody better watching your back than Tony Bartone, and there's nobody better to be on your side than Tony Bartone. So, no, I think, Sean's obviously in a great situation over there. But I'm sure he knows this, but he'd never say it. But everybody in the trailer would tell you the same thing. They'll tell you, we're a better team because he's our driver. When we need him, he's there for us. And if he's not having his best day, you know what? We'll pick him up and we'll move on and we'll go down the road. But they all believe in him just as strongly as he believes in them. And that's the reason they've won a couple of championships. That's the reason they're as good as they are, because they literally are all working together at the same goal. They're not always looking for somebody to blame when things go wrong.
The bar has been set. Sean?
Yeah, and Alan, you bring up a good point, because I've been part of teams that are the other way. And let me tell you something, that's no fun. Number one, it's a long season. You are on the road a lot with those guys. And I'd rather be a brotherhood than be fighting with each other all the time. I mean, it's, what makes it worth leaving your family to go do is because it is a hell of a lot of fun. And I can't imagine doing it without having a good time. I promised myself the day I stop having fun is the day I stop doing it. And, I remember a car owner getting on me one time, and I literally handed him my helmet, said, you know what? It sounds like it's your turn to drive. And you bring up, like Alan, you bring up Tony. There's a big difference between an owner who has driven and an owner who hasn't. And a lot of times those owners that are really breaking on your driving are the ones that have never done it themselves, because it ain't easy in there. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot of pressure that usually the drivers put on ourselves. Changing conditions, expectations, sponsors asking how you're doing. There's a lot to it that a lot of people don't understand. Even just travel. Being from California, just so I could go do this without quarantine, I actually drove to Las Vegas, flew out of Las Vegas. That added another 6 hours to my travel. Then you get there, you're tired time change. I mean, this is just all stuff that adds up that you guys, go on the road too, that, you understand it, but people that sit in the grandstands come out locally may not understand. So the fact that I have that brotherhood, those guys that have my back, we have one rule over there, and that is that if we're rolling in the dirt fighting, you got everybody from Tony Bartone Racing rolling in the dirt fighting with you. That's how it works. And, metaphorically or physically or mentally, that's how it works. And I'll tell you what, I believe that you win a lot of races before you ever pull out of the pit. And I could not handpick a better team. I'm just happier than hell to be a part of it.
There was the classic story, and this goes back to late 90s. Second year, third year of the Winston Top Fuel deal. Alan Johnson was running the team. Gary Selzy, of course, was driving at the time. And they had tremendous success, with 3 championships in 4 years. But they went through kind of a midsummer slump. Gary wasn't particularly sharp. The car wasn't doing what it normally did. They had, some silly mistakes being made. Something wasn't tight or something was left off or somebody missed something. And they went 3 or 4 races and literally they just sucked. And in Seattle, I remember first round, second round, they lost, and it was another one of those just kind of stupid little things. And they got back to the pits, and everybody's got their head down, and they're down in the dumps. And Alan told them, get the car in the trailer, and then get in here. We're having a meeting. And everybody on that team was convinced that they were fired. I mean, they literally took the wing off the car, stuck it in the trailer, locked all the doors. Alan got everybody in the trailer. They locked all the doors. And he said, look, here's the issue. We're not having any fun. He said, when we get to Brainerd, we're going to turn the stereo up. We're going to have the car put away at 7 o'clock so we can go out in the zoo, so we can have a few beers, so we can enjoy it. He said, the problem right now is everybody's pushing. Nobody's having any fun. Everybody's tense. You guys need to loosen the hell up. And then he walked out and left, and they went on and I think won 3 of the next 4 races and won the championship. But you've got to have everybody, I think, you've got to have everybody feeling like they're on the same team and feeling like, I've got your back, you've got my back. Let's go into this battle together. Not looking over your shoulder. And I think, Alan has always been one of the best at that, motivating drivers and doing stuff. You look at anybody that's ever driven for him, he's not a yeller and screamer kind of guy. He makes you feel like we've got your back, and now you want so badly to carry your end to not let down the rest of the team. And I think that's a big part of why he has been so successful over the years with all of the different drivers that he's worked with. Right? I mean, I assume everybody knows the story. When he went to work with John Force, the first thing he told John is, you are not allowed to talk to my driver on race day. Well, that's my daughter. I don't care. You are not allowed to talk to my driver. And because the way Alan teaches and the way Alan motivates, he doesn't want somebody else to put their fingers in the pie, so to speak. And, you look at the success that they had. So I think that's just the difference between he and some of the other people out there that are, if you don't perform, you're fired. And it's a different way of going about it. But I personally like being on teams where everybody's got your back, not where everybody's looking to blame somebody.
One of my best friends and a very, very good top alcohol tuner, Bob DeVore. And I drove for Bob in 2007, and we had a lot of success. And he told me then, in 2007, I was 25, 26 years old. And looking back on that, thinking I had the world by the gut, right? And boy, did I learn a lot from him as far as being a competitor, go in this for the long haul. A racing season is a marathon, and you've got to stay focused, and it's tough to do. And he told me a term back then that I swear made me a 10 times better driver, and it's just a simple little term, but that term is harmony brings speed. And it can't be any truer. I mean, Alan, you just made a great example of it with, Selzy. My dad was partners in alcohol funny cars when I was growing up, primarily in the Lemon and Burr alcohol funny car campaign here in Southern California. Gary Selzy drove that car for about 3/4 of a season. And I remember my dad telling me, hey, you want to be a driver, watch this guy. This guy is just flat a winner. And I watched Gary like a hawk because I wanted to be a driver from the time I was 5 years old. And I watched Gary, how he maintained himself during the day, the things he did, the things he ate, the way he interacted with other people. The guy is just a champion. And I mean, I remember a lot of that from, that was the 1995 season, I think. In fact, I was just getting started in junior dragsters then. So, but harmony brings speed. Old DeVore told me that. I think about it almost every day when I go to the racetrack. Pat your guys on the back. They're working just as hard. Heck, I feel like I've got the easy job. They're the ones busting their butts. I get to go for the ride. So, kind of back to that reaction time thing. I feel like I'd be letting them down if I didn't at least hold up my end of the deal. They're the one, sweating their butts off, and I get to have the fun.
Yeah, and it's been amazing to see how that has translated to victories, and you're giving your speed secrets out, but that's okay because it's really hard to achieve that. Personalities, chemistry, everybody dealing with those own things. Now, I did have a question, but I kind of want to go in a different direction because something happened this weekend that I saw that just got me thinking. Sean, you're a multi-time champ. Alan, you've been around a lot of great championships. And I know, Alan, you appreciate some of the other sports out there, stick and ball. We all, for the most part, judging by the ratings, watched The Last Dance about Michael Jordan and talked a little bit about, his competitive drive. He's one example. He would create reasons to beat you. You said good morning to him on the wrong day. What? Good morning. And he'll go teach you a lesson. Well, this past weekend, there was a charity golf tournament with Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Tiger Woods, and Phil Mickelson. And they're all IFB to the broadcasters. And Brady was having a real tough go of it. Like, he was having a tough go of it. And you could see he was fighting against himself. And anybody that's played any kind of golf know that's really when it gets challenging. And it was going all wrong. All of a sudden, Charles Barkley decided to lean on him a little bit. Just lean him out like, hey, Brady, what's up, Brady? Giving him some trouble. And Brady's like, what? And the next shot, he's like, hey, I won the Super Bowl. It's not over yet. The next shot, 180 yards out in the hole. And so it was the perfect illustration of whatever it is that the champion, the next level competitor, the Michael Jordan, the Tom Brady, that they have when challenged, they can dig down and find. Come on, he hit it from 180 out right as Charles attacks him. Something inside him was awakened at that moment. And I want to talk about that in drag racing, and that has to exist. It has to be in there. It's in the competitor. It's in the champion like Sean Bellemeur. We saw it with Brady in a golf club, but I just talk about being able to rise to that next level, Sean, and Alan, your thoughts as well. It obviously transcends what sport you're in, and it has to do with the nature of the competitor.
Yeah, I played a lot of sports growing up, and been involved in a lot of different team environments. And to me, it also boils down to the person. Back to DeVore. When I drove for DeVore, we hit a slump, and in an alcohol funny car, maybe the most important part of the driving job is the foot swap on the starting line, getting that clutch pedal out and that throttle down at the exact same time. And if you miss it a couple hundred RPM one way or the other, it makes or breaks the run. And I was just missing foot. It was just all mental. I couldn't get it right. We were in Seattle, and I think I was feeling some pressure for the championship. We were mixed in the middle of it with Jay Payne and Frank Manzo at the time, and I just messing up. And DeVore pulled me aside and said, "What the F is the matter with you?" And I went, "I don't know, Bob. I can't get it." And he goes, "I've got an idea. How about you just drive the effing car? Just drive it. Just get in and do it. Just shut up. Stop talking about it. Get in, drive the damn car." And the next run, we went low ET and top speed. And, and it just, you're right. I mean, but it takes a special person like Bob DeVore to read me and figure out what I needed. Charles Barkley, hell of a competitor. Tom Brady, say no more. It takes that, there's a certain kind of person that it takes to recognize it and relay the message appropriately, because I've seen it, pull out in disaster as well. Michael Jordan may be the best competitor of all time. I got to tell you, I wouldn't respond well to a guy like Michael Jordan. To me, I'm more of a Kobe Bryant kind of guy. Kobe was the fire like Michael Jordan, but he had a more charismatic state to him, a more team attitude to him. And I always liked Kobe Bryant for that.
It's interesting. I kind of relate that to teachers. My mother was a teacher. She had a master's degree in education, and that's how she made her living. And when I was going to school, I always paid attention to teachers simply because my mom was one, and I had, a 24-hour-a-day teacher. And the realization that the way I'm going to get Joe Costello to understand this might not be the same way that I'm going to get Sean Bellemeur to understand this. And you've got to connect with different people in different ways in order to motivate them to get the result that you want, because everybody is different. I think one of the classics, and who's the better driver, Larry Dixon or Del Worsham? Okay, and you can debate that till the end of time. But Larry Dixon's starting line mentality was be a machine, do it the same every time, qualifying, first round, final round, every time, get into your routine, do this. And if you're in your routine, then you'll make fewer mistakes. You're always at second nature. It's muscle memory. Where Dell's starting line mentality had a lot to do with who he was racing. If he's going up against somebody and he's like, okay, this guy's got our performance match, I got to be on the game, man, he'd pull one out. But if he was going up against me, he might relax and be 80 on the tree because he didn't need to be. And if he was qualifying, he had a different mental approach than if he was racing. And both of them obviously won multiple championships. Both of them won a lot of the races. I'm not going to tell you either one of them was doing it wrong. I'm just saying that, the same thing doesn't work for everybody. You've got to find out what it's going to take to put you in the zone, what it's going to take to get you comfortable, or somebody's got to know what it's going to take to motivate you and help get you there. And it's not the same across the board. I know people that respond to being under pressure, right? Perform or you're fired. And I know people that'll make them go, all right, I'm ready. And I know people that you go, perform or you're fired. They go, oh, I don't want to get fired. I don't want to get fired. And then they've got no chance of performing well. And you've got to, as the team leader, as the teacher, as the crew chief, as the whoever, you've got to be able to motivate the person the way that's going to get the result that you want from them. And everybody's not the same.
Very interesting.
It's funny. If I can add to that real quick, when I was growing up, I paid a lot of attention to drivers because I always wanted to be one. And you remember Doug Herbert on the starting line? I used to think he was going to crack his helmet. He'd beat the hell out of himself sitting in that. Oh, man. I mean, and I got, geez, that guy. But that's how Doug Herbert did it. And that was his way. You guys want to know a little secret? When I back up from a burnout, put the car back and forward, I always rev the thing up. And I do that for two reasons. Number one, that's just my way of saying, hey, let's do this. The reason that I do that is I remember when I was younger watching Rick Santos drive. And to me, you want to talk about a machine of a driver, Rick Santos was as good as it got, especially when he was driving Jack O'Bannon's car. That guy was unbelievable. And I remember seeing him sitting in there, and he was so calm. I swear he didn't even blink his eyes, but he was so calm. And he'd back up from the burnout, and he'd pull forward a little bit, and he would do that. He would rev the thing up. And I asked his brother, George Santos, one time, I said, why does he do that? He goes, that's his way of saying, I'm going to kick your ass. And I thought, that's pretty cool. And that's exactly, I remember that from when I was a kid. And that's exactly why I do it. And it's not me trying to talk crap or nothing, but I want my race car and that scoreboard to do the talking while I try and stay calm and do my thing in there. And I just, like I said, it's two different ends of the spectrum. Doug Herbert, very successful racer. Rick Santos, very successful racer. Two different ends of the spectrum.
Get in the zone. Get ready to battle. And hopefully we see a little bit more. Sean, any final thoughts for the WFO audience before we let you go? I think great job by everybody getting out there, doing the right thing, putting on a show. We often talk, as in you and I, when we're off the air. I know Alan and I talk about it a lot. Maybe a final thought here for the top alcohol cars to take the big spotlight, right? That was nice. When we think about this down the road, like who let us out of this mess? It were the alcohol cars, put on a great show, very well received, handled it professionally, and took that spotlight on NHRA.tv. I thought it was great.
Yeah, for me, once again, just the Texas Motorplex, Andy and his team out there, the state of Texas, Will Hanna, everybody that put that thing together, they didn't have to do that. And the fact that the Midwest Pro Mod Association, we all just tied this race together. It had a different feel to it. Like I said, I wish everybody could have gotten to feel it. It felt so damn good to get out of the house. My final thought on that is what a success. We all come out of this deal healthy. We all come out of this smiling. Maybe it's time we can actually move forward internationally. Everybody, let's just do this.
I like it. Sean, thank you very much. Alan, anything final for Sean?
Nah, man, just congratulations. Awesome job by you and the whole team. He knows I sent him the congratulatory text on Sunday night, as well as Boggs and Bartone and everybody else that's in my phone. But no, you guys had a great job out there, and I look forward to seeing you on the track soon, whether it's Denver, whether it's New Hampshire, whether it's wherever it ends up being. Let's get back to it.
Yeah, let's do that. And maybe some national events here pretty soon. Guys, I appreciate you having me on. It'll be good to see you in person soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Take your
Sean.
time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Short notice, and you came on, you made time for us. I really appreciate that. All right, Sean, thank you.
All right, guys, take it easy.
There he goes. He is your top alcohol funny car world champion, and he wins the first race. That we are back. And I like that, getting behind the car, Alan. Like, that makes sense that those cars are the kind of thing you might get a little bit behind when you take however many days off than you did.
It's funny. I've never driven anything that fast at that level. But obviously I've been around the sport a long time. I remember Johnny Cray, when he was getting his funny car license, was driving Paul Smith's car, and he drove the thing. Are you still there?
Yeah, I got you. Yes.
Oh, my phone just went blank. So anyway, but the first full run that he made, he drove the thing a long way. And Paul Smith came back and he said, "What was that?" And Johnny said, "I shut it off when I got to the finish line." He goes, "Now, I have no idea where the car was at that point, but when my brain got to the finish line, I shut it off." And Paul said, "Well, the finish line was back there about 300 feet. He said, "Well, I'll get there." But, as fast as the cars are and as quick as they are, anything you do, time slows down a little bit as you do it more and more often. You get more comfortable with it. But being away for so long, I'm pretty sure that the next time I get on an airplane, when they throttle that thing up, I'm going to go, whoa. Whereas, it got to the point where I was doing it 6 times a week. I could go to sleep while they were taking off, but it's just been so long that it'll take me a couple, I think, to get back in the groove. And I'm really looking forward to getting back in the groove, believe me.
I was on an airplane this past week. Last week, I traveled to Tennessee. It was the tip of the spear, Alan. I was one of the first out there, and it was interesting. Good news, if you've got any kind of status, chances are you're getting upgraded. Every time there was a possibility. Bad news is there's nothing to give you. You don't get anything. You just get the seat. No beverage. There's no free alcohol, nothing. Everybody, wearing the masks, doing their part, which was pretty cool. And I think handled pretty well. They can handle some more people when it's at like 80% capacity. Assuming we get back to that, it'll be a little interesting. But yes, the takeoff got my attention as well, but I was happy to do it. It was pretty cool. And there's more things happening, though, coming up soon. You were the first to alert me to this event, the National Day of Nitro, May 30th, 2020. They're going to burn some nitro. How cool is that? As we get closer, let's get everybody revved up about it.
I think it's very cool. I don't have a ton of details about it other than just I think it was the brainchild of the guys up at Bakersfield, Famoso Raceway, that said, "Hey, we need to do something. Let's just remind everybody that we're still here." And a number of people have jumped on the bandwagon. But there are going to be, my understanding about anything that burns nitro is welcome, whether it's an RC car, whether it's a nostalgic car, whether it's an injected car, whether it's a top fuel car. And a number of teams are going to roll one of them out of the shop or out of the trailer and just cackle it and be part of the live broadcast. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it has garnered a lot of support. I think there are a lot of people that have been sitting around a long time just waiting to hear one of those things go. So it should be interesting, and hopefully it'll garner some mainstream attention from the media and from others, and remind everybody that, okay, yeah, you haven't seen a top fuel car go down the racetrack for a while, but we're still here and we are ready and we want to get back to work as badly as everybody else does. So I applaud the guys that came up with the idea and put it all together, and I certainly will be paying attention.
I will too. And it's all you have to do to take part is pretty much watch your Facebook feeds. If you watch WFO radio on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or listen to the podcast, etc., chances are you've got a bunch of drag racers in your feed and you're going to get a bunch of notifications when the time is right. So you just want to share those and watch and see as our community takes part. And I think it is great. I've been very honest here in that I just want to be cautious. I want to avoid having to go back to the beginning again, right? Like do not pass go, do not collect $200. I don't want to do that. But listening to, and I mentioned at the start, a poker room guy, like these casinos, right? They're dying. Like they need to be able to make their people feel comfortable. Well, they're opening their poker rooms, and what are they doing? They're doing everything. They're got 50 different things that they're doing. To just every one of them is reducing the percentage by a little bit to try to make people feel comfortable. And they had a huge opening weekend this past weekend. And I think about them and I think about us. We're an outdoor sport. Our capacity of our stadiums is huge. And we've got a crowd that is nice and strong, but there is space out there. I think we can do this if we do the right thing. And I think everybody should be motivated. When I was watching the live stream on NHRA.tv, and thanks to Chad Reynolds from Bank Shift sitting up there on that scaffolding, swinging the camera so that I could be entertained in my room, looking at the people on the starting line. They were wearing their masks. They were doing what they had to do to comply with the rules. Whether they believe it, whether they don't believe it, whether they feel like they need it, whether they don't. That didn't matter. What are the rules? What do we have to do to comply? They did it.
And I think, that's kind of racer mentality. They want to race. They want to get back to work. They want to get back out there. And if you said, okay, look, you're going to have to put your shoes on opposite feet and whatever, people would do that because that's how much they want to get back to race. But I think that, once we get through a few of these, hopefully with no negative effects, that we will be able to get back a little bit closer to normal. Obviously you can't service a top fuel car or a funny car and stay 6 feet apart. But if you know the group that you're with, you're comfortable with the group that you're with, then, I think that's the key. If 3 people that aren't sick are all in the same room, there's no opportunity for anything to get passed, for anybody to get infected. What you need to do is make sure that you minimize contact with those that are outside of your circle. And I think that's going to be where the big things are. The teams that work together, if they're in the shop every day, if they're doing, then they know and they're comfortable with the fact that I'm okay working side by side, elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder with this guy or this girl. But what we need to do is minimize, like what Sean was talking about with signing a hero card. That's such a big part of the NHRA is for the fans to go into the pits, for the fans to interact with the drivers. But if I'm a driver and I'm standing at the ropes and I have 100 people come by, I don't feel comfortable right now shaking hands with everybody, putting an arm around, taking a picture with them. I just don't. And so you're going to have to do a little bit of, there's going to be some change there, I think, when we first come out of the box. How long it's going to last or what, I don't know that. But I do know that, it will be a little bit different for a while. But if we need to get back to it, we need to start moving in that direction. And that's just my personal feeling.
I'm going to get a stamp. So I think racers should just get a stamp. You want an autograph? Stamp, right? Hey, there, right there on forehead, stamp.
Well, the good news is for racers, they certainly could autograph cards ahead of time. Somebody could sit in the shop and just autograph 500 handout cards before they go to the next race. So the fan being able to get the autograph handout card is still going to be there. But the personal interaction, how many times have you walked by the ropes and you see, somebody going up that wants to get a picture taken with Erica or wants to get a picture taken with Anton or wants to get a picture taken with Hagen or with whoever. And I think that's part of what's going to change because I don't know how comfortable the drivers are going to feel. I don't know how comfortable the fans are going to feel, want to get in that close. And I think that's where some of the social distancing, some of the stuff, that's where some of the changes are going to be. I certainly hope that the fans will still be allowed in the pits. I think that's such a part of the NHRA experience that that's something that can't go away. But how you work out social distancing in the pits is something that I think is kind of paramount on everybody's mind. But I also believe in personal responsibility. You know what? If they said tomorrow, okay, this event is open and we're going to have 500 people in the mosh pit. If I don't feel comfortable doing that, I'm not going.
Right.
And if I do go and I do jump into the mosh pit with 500 strangers, well, then I'm taking some of the responsibility for that because I made the decision to put myself at risk. And I think that that's where a big part of it is going to have to be. I think that, some of the fans are going to have to understand that, hey, that it's not that we don't want to interact. It's that everybody needs to take a little responsibility for themselves. And we need to get through this together.
And get through it, which is the right term, which implies that there is an end. And there hopefully is. They're working on vaccines. They're working on treatments. The entire world is focused on this like nothing else before. We'll get there. Of course, Memorial Day weekend, I'm sure you saw the photographs of those people in the swimming pool in the Ozarks. Just goes to show you that things can make it around the world so fast. But I don't know, guys, like that one might not have been the best idea. So, what's going to happen in those situations? Let's avoid them. All right. And typically you answer questions for people. Here's a quick question. And what we want to see the slot machine go, right? So Mark has asked a question and this is his question. I hope there's no answer to it. I hope this doesn't happen. Like every time people come up with a great idea, I'm usually into the great idea. This is one I'm against, right? Injected nitro in top alcohol funny car. I do not want to limit the sky high RPM foot swap on the starting line in favor of a stab and steer low RPM growl. No offense, injected dragsters. It's great in dragster, and I understand why, but I don't want to see it. But Mark wants to know why. And because of his question and the fact that he has suggested that the crankshaft and cylinder heads should be the grand prize for your slot machine, at the conclusion of this interview, now we don't get that. But if the slot machine hits, Mark, you will get a WFO logo mask sent to you that you can then wear. And it does not imply any safety, by the way. It's just a mask. And you can wear the WFO logo right over your face. How about that? But Alan, the question, why not? Why haven't we seen that bad idea yet?
The injected nitro funny car question is one that I actually get very often in my announcer email. And if there's anybody out there watching who has a question, shoot it at me anytime. Announcer at NHRA.com. I'm still getting, a few a week from the fans out there, and I'll be more than happy to answer them there. But the reason that there's no such thing as an injected nitro funny car is because there never was an injected nitro funny car class. The injected dragsters go back to the day when there was top fuel, which had a blower, and there were junior fuel, which didn't have a blower. And the junior fuel cars at some point morphed into Pro Comp, which then morphed into top alcohol dragster. But they had their separate class that has now found a home in the top alcohol dragster rank. There was never a separate class for injected nitro funny cars. When funny cars became a thing, a number of them in the early days were injected. And then when people started adding blowers, everybody just added a blower. And yes, I know that there were a couple of small tours and exhibition tours that ran, like 4 or 6 injected nitro cars that would go around. But as far as the NHRA was concerned, there was never a funny car class and a junior funny car class. There was never a blower class and an injector class. And it simply was never created. And I don't see a need to create it right now. I like, I like the funny cars the way they are. I think that, the performance of the class is outstanding. There are a lot of different engine suppliers, a lot of different stuff out there, a lot of different ways that you can go, whether you want to do an Alan Johnson or a Brad Anderson or a Noonan, whether you want to do a torque converter, you want to do a clutch, but there are a lot of different ways you can run an alcohol funny car. And we'll leave the injected cars over in the dragster side of the fence, and I'm fine with that. So.
Exactly. All right. Any final thoughts, Alan? Anything we failed to cover? Obviously, Megan getting the win down there. Good to have racing back. We're just got to keep clicking off weeks on the calendar, see how things go to get big show stuff back. Everyone's going to burn a little nitro. I know it's early in the week. They're probably waiting till we click end on this broadcast to break some sort of big news, as is normally the case. But any final thoughts before we have you hit the slot machine?
No, not really. I am expecting to hear some news either this week or next week. Some further information, potentially some legitimate schedule updates. NHRA has not put out a schedule, even though the one that's out there floating around, there's definitely some merit to that, and that's one of the things that's being discussed. But there are a few other things that are being discussed, and I expect to have some hard news, if not this week because it's a short week, potentially next week. And I can't give away one head just because it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to Drill, who loaned it to me, so I could do a top fuel versus injected nitro cylinder head comparison. I've also got a brand new alcohol head that's here that is a prototype. You can't have that because I'm kind of sworn to secrecy. But and the top fuel head I'm not giving away as part of my museum. Someday I'm going to build my own cackle motor. The way I'm going right now, I've got 5 different cylinder heads, but they're all different. So I don't know exactly how this thing's going to look. It might be a little like Johnny Cash's Cadillac by the time I get it all done, but and it might be one of those that when it's time to start it, I'm going to be across the street.
Let me translate to everybody out there. We got one more thing before you pull the reel, and Mark is out there. He wants to win. But if you have an overflow of parts and can help Alan build his cackle motor by sending him matched cylinder heads and stuff that he may need that will just be getting things out of your way, this is the arena to do it. Send it to Alan and we will publicize you for having done it, and we'll watch the build happen in the background and everybody will win and you will be a great hero. That's what Alan was just trying to say. I just wanted to clear it all out. Right?
Actually, if you want to do that, rocker arms and 44, Pro 44 magnetos. Those are the things that are going to be difficult to come by. Most of the other stuff gets cycled out pretty regularly. Okay, let's see. I'm going to try to move this over here without wrecking anything. We will focus on the slot machine.
before I love it. You're doing a great job. One more thing. Jock opened his eyes. That's big news. We've been following the tale of Irwin Allen, who is Steve Johnson, a crew guy who we all love. Jock is opened his eyes, and Steve went on Facebook last night. You can find that on Steve Johnson Racing Facebook page. Also, Competition Plus has got a great story. Todd Smith telling his story about what it was like to have the COVID-19 and to come almost all the way back. Okay, so Mark Vittori, not this exact one. You'll get one brand new in the package. Where is the one that's in the pack? Look, they come sealed and wrapped, and I will send it to you. You will send me your address, direct message. You get 3 chances for any kind of hit. Now, Alan, the last time we did this, 3 more hits later was the super jackpot, right? Like, our winner won, but you cashed that thing for the mega the last time.
I didn't get the super jackpot, no, but I had a triple bar, which pays 100. So that wasn't bad. No, the super mega I've only hit one time. Triple sevens I've only hit one time, but let's see what we get here today.
All right.
There it is.
There it is. A victory. This game is too easy. We got to make it harder for next time. The good news is Mark Vittori has just won a WFO Radio logo mask. Mark, you will send me your information via direct message on Facebook. I will know it's you because you can only be the one who sends it, and you will get a mask in the mail. And the first,
we get to watch it go haywire once.
I love the haywire machine. It's going haywire. I love bonus games. Rob. Yeah, I missed that. All of a sudden I got the dopamine again. I got gambling, right? It's
if you want to know where you can get one of these, Joe, I will email you the link for the company that I bought it from, and they will deliver it right to your door and plug it in and push the button.
I love it. That some crack will be in heaven. It'll be great. Alan, great job.
The beauty of it is,
yeah.
The beauty of it is when you run out of credits, you can just like stick a couple of bucks in here to run the credits back up. Take the money out, and you still have the credits.
I love it. I love it. No, I love slot machines, and that's a real deal with real reels as opposed to the digital ones that I was so against the other day. Alan, great job as usual. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I feel like we got some forward momentum, and that is a good thing.
Thanks, Joe. And anybody out there that's interested in cylinder head, since we were talking about that a little bit, that is going to be our shop talk tomorrow. Noon on the West Coast, 3 p.m. on the East Coast. Brian Lones and I are going to talk cylinder heads, and I hope I will have the Pro Stock cylinder head here to be part of it. I am waiting on UPS as we speak.
All right. That sounds great, and I have been loving what you guys have been doing, the Shop Talk segment, Brian and Alan. All right, Alan, thank you so much.
Thanks, Joe. Talk to you soon.
There he goes, the NHRA's Alan Reinhart, with us here on WFO Radio. And of course, if you're watching on our Facebook page, follow the page. If you're watching on YouTube, click the bell and subscribe. And if you're Mark, send me your address and I'll drop one of those and some WFO Radio stickers in the mail as you want on the Allen slot. That's 2 weeks in a row. The slot has hit. 2 weeks previous, last week I was away on Performance TV, Motor Trend Network, 8:30 a.m. Sunday morning. And there you go. A couple comments, final comments as we get ready to get on out of here. We do have a big week. Who's going to be on later this week? I don't want to say because there has been the instance a few times that we have booked a guest that I deem to be a big and popular guest that will be beloved by all of you, but it hasn't worked out because this dude's busy. But we're trying again because we never quit. We always fight. Always. And then Friday, we're going to have another edition of Friday Cocktails. If you were watching our happy hour show last Friday, you got a lot of insight into things that went down. For instance, the Doxy Nationals from Matt and Angie Smith. And it was Coco Chanel that did win the Doxy Nationals race. So you got to give credit to Jason Logan. Apparently, there's a story in the new Drag Illustrated about Jason Logan and myself and the work we put in at the Orlando Speed World Door Slammer National. So that's kind of cool, getting a little bit of pub. That will be cool. I spoke with Nate, who is the editor of Drag Illustrated. He has got a slot on WFO coming soon. And we are working on our Friday Cocktails show, happy hour show for this week. If you've got a suggestion, if you've got an idea, by all means, send it. People you want to hear. I have got the word out to Megan Meyer already. And Megan is going to be on the show to talk about her perspective of the big win out there at the Orlando Speed World, at the Texas Motorplex Lone Star Nationals. Great to hear Will Hanna Will has had a long-standing invite to come on the show, but for whatever reason refuses. I know. Like, why wouldn't Will want to come on the show? And he's stonewalling me. But we're going to get him on eventually. Now, do you believe that, or do you think it has been an oversight by me? One of those two things are true. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're just going to have to use your brain and guess. Quick, more free stuff. WFO radio stickers, Castello Media, WFO stickers, P.O. Box 848-353, Pembroke Pines, Florida, 33084. What you do is you do a self-addressed stamped envelope to that address, and I'm going to throw some WFO radio stickers in it. Typically, 2 stamps, back to you, enables me to throw a bunch of stickers in there. And maybe I can even fit one of these masks in there. Who knows? And we're going to be pumping these masks out as fast as possible. Who gets them first? The Patreons, WFO Patreons, patreon.com/WFO radio. And if you sign on to support the show directly, you're definitely getting a mask. Our Patreons are getting a mask. And the whole mask thing, right? I know not everybody is into it. I had one of my Patreons be like, I'm not into the mask. But I get it. But it's not about you anymore, man. It's about promoting the show. Let us put our logo right over your face. Let us do that, so that we can publicize the show. It'll be kind of interesting. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. New episode of Hidden Horsepower by Total Seal, up and available. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. The 20% off special on all of their products is coming to an end. So you definitely want to hit them up. Total Seal Piston Rings, doing a great job. Also, Nitrofish Racing, whether you be into the Erica Enders t-shirt or the WFO radio t-shirt or Jason Line final season t-shirt, everything that they do, go to nitrofishracing.com and use the promo code WFO20. Reinhart tried the other one. It doesn't work. You can only get 20% off. And I'm really thrilled that we are getting that. And every time we do a show, someone goes on and buys a shirt. Why not? Chance to save 20% off. WFO 20. Marvin Rodak, Rodak'sCoffeeandGrills.com. I always keep a bag of coffee right here in the studio so that I can show you how amazing it is. What we have yet to design, though, is a way to get the aroma through. And I have had so many people tell me, because there's a lot of coffees out there, but Marvin sources his from around the world, some plantations that only send out a sack or 2 a year. And so he is really the coffee maestro, doing a great job. Thanks to Marvin for being a supporter of WFO. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Start your education at full speed. You kids out there, you should be planning. This is the time where you get ahead. What are you going to do? You got to get ahead. Get your education. Racing's not going anywhere, one way or another. There's going to be jobs in motorsports. Frank Hawley Drag Racing School. The Dragster Adventure. You can learn to drive a top alcohol funny car. Frank Atlanta Hawley, just doing great things. I am WFO Joe. Would encourage you to check out all of our shows. We're going to talk NASCAR later this week. Our WFO Radio Fantasy League is rocking. NASCAR has done a great job getting back. They have done a great job. And you can hear the Ignition Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. We encourage you to write a review, like encouraging you to do all kinds of stuff right now. You're like, encouraging you to do things. But writing a review and likes on YouTube, very, very important. All of our shows out there. But Ignition is podcast only. The YouTube channel definitely needs love and likes. Steve Brenwald helping us out. Brenwald Media doing all the graphic arts and getting everything right. And as we get to the final moments of the show, just want to remind you that everything is up there on Facebook. You can go back and find old shows. Go back into our WFO archive. A lot of our winners. We haven't had winners for a while because there have been no winners. But now there are winners once again. And so we're going to find our format as best as we can and get back going again. Once again, Bobby Bennett, great story. Todd Smith, Julie Smith. Julie got it as well. They experienced a personal tragedy during it. It's a must-read column on competitionplus.com. Also, Jock, Steve Johnson. He opened his eyes. He's communicating. First time. Such great news. And we've been trying to keep it light, have a little fun. The Friday show, the happy hour show, Courtney Enders, Megan Meyer, and this guy, Jason Logan. Had a whole lot of fun. That's waiting for you. Once you get through here, just scroll on down or go to WFOradio.com and hit the WFO Radio TV portion of the website. And you can watch all of our shows right there and see all the funny stuff. And that's going to do it. We're off and running. It feels like Monday, but it's Tuesday, which means we're closer to Friday. We're all thrown off, but we'll be back. And thanks to you guys, and thanks to everybody at the Texas Motorplex for doing it right, doing a good job, and representing the sport in a positive way. There's a hurdle. What do? You jump through it. You jump through it right, you get another hurdle to jump through. And the governor of Texas to decide, you know what, fans can go. If nothing more than as a test to see how they will react. I think it was a good job. Thanks to Alan Reinhart. Thanks to Sean Bellemeur. Thanks to you listeners. Really appreciate you guys. We'll see you on the next one. WFO.